Welcome back. Previously on this review series. So when I talked about Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, I said that I wish that the story had been a little bit more interesting given the setup, bringing up my notion that if you go through all this trouble to make your movie look like one shot, the story needs to warrant that. You can't just ride on this gimmick to make a mediocre story suddenly great. Running Time took that even less to heart, and had much more subpar results. How? Well, let's get running. Running Time is a 1997 independent crime thriller written, produced, and directed by Josh Becker and starring Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell plays Carl, an ex-con that's just been released who sets out to rob a prison laundry system that he worked for while locked up. Upon his release, he meets up with an old high school buddy who has all the arrangements for the job. After picking up the safecracker and their getaway driver, they've got 20 minutes to pull off their crime, but soon, everything starts going wrong. At first glance, this sounds relatively fine. I'm not sure I see the point in this kind of film needing to be one shot, but I'll go with it. What follows, though, is a plot as laughably bad and poorly put together as their heist. Of all the films on this list, I'd say this is probably the closest to a bad movie night film. Although the first friend I showed this to said it was legitimately the worst film I'd ever shown him. I have a hard time believing that, but I can't say I think much of this film either. And full spoiler warning with this one. I don't plan on doing this for every review, but forgive me, Running Time seriously just needs a full explanation of its plot. So the film opens right as Carl is getting released from prison and going to talk to the prison warden.
Leave it open.
Yeah, how else is the camera guy gonna get into the room? So after a talk with the warden about how great he's gonna do out there, Carl walks through the gates a free man. He's greeted by his longtime friend Patrick, who greets him with a football for some reason.
3! Hey, that's a Redford Dondero game ball, man.
Why is this giving me bad vibes?
3!
Oh, hi, Danny.
Oh. Hope this isn't where Tommy Wiseau got the idea. It quickly becomes clear, though, that Carl hasn't changed at all. In fact, he's been planning this heist with Patrick while in prison, somehow. Yeah, I know prisons were probably a little more lax back in '97, but they do usually still monitor correspondence with inmates. How in the world was he able to send him all his inside information and plan this out with Patrick to the point that he's already got a getaway driver, a vehicle, a safecracker, and staked out the robbery area? And while they discuss this crime, in full view of the prison guards, Patrick gives him a surprise for his release. Right there in the back seat is a prostitute he rented. They both go through their incredibly modest sex scene for about a minute before he realizes that she's actually an old flame of his from high school.
Janie Kachansky? I'm Carl Matushka.
Oh my god. Carl!
Yeah, that's pretty awkward. Once they drop her off, though, they assemble their robbery crew because, get this, the heist is actually happening that very same day. And not at an arbitrary time either. It's like 10 minutes later, with a day and time that have to be perfectly timed out. What if his prison release had gotten delayed by a day or even an hour? Or heck, what if him and Janie had lasted longer in the back seat? Apparently a shipment of $250,000 in unmarked bills is being sent to this location. Carl knows about it from hearing plans for it while he was in prison. So Carl, Patrick, and the safecracker head in for one of the most laughable robberies ever. I mean, maybe I'm just too used to modern heist films, where the plan is untraceable and it's foolproof, but good gosh, everything about this plan of theirs is just stupid. They're using each other's names out loud in front of the witnesses, they're not wearing generic clothing, they're barely hiding their faces. A grocery shopper during the corona pandemic is harder to identify than them. For God's sakes, Carl's wearing the exact same outfit that the warden saw him in just moments ago. They talked it up like it was going to be this perfect crime, but cracking a safe in broad daylight in front of witnesses isn't a very secretive caper. And then one of the hostages is forced to buy them some time by calling the people that are arriving for the money to stop and pick him up some ice cream.
I don't suppose you could stop and pick me up some ice cream, could you?
What? Then Patrick shoots one of the hostages when he tries to leave, and the other one suffers a fatal heart attack. And when they go to make their escape, they realize why hiring a heroin junkie to be your getaway driver is a pretty bad idea. The police arrive, the safecracker gets killed, Carl gets wounded, so he and Patrick have to make their getaway on foot. Yeah, we're running away from a scene of a crime we just committed. Let's just stay right down the center of a street holding bags of money. Like, you know how when you were little and you thought that cops arrested bad people and took them directly to prison to serve their sentence, and then as you get older, you realize that there's a trial that happens first, but you still think that happens in like 2 days' time? It's like the film was made with that kind of mindset. Honestly, this film would make a lot more sense if it was a old black and white cartoon or even a Three Stooges sketch. Then it doesn't have to fit logic. The two split up, but having been shot in the altercation, Carl goes through this really weird acid trip moment while in a tunnel.
Longest split this. You got 5 years and I lost.
And then eventually runs into the druggy getaway driver and beats the snot out of him for not being there. He then makes his way to Janie's apartment. Yeah, I guess in an attempt to give the movie some kind of emotional depth, they decide to work her in as a love interest. While they caught up casually earlier, they do hint at a bad relic from their past, and when he comes to her place to lay low and get patched up, they end up arguing about what actually happened between them.
You went psycho on me. You turned into some kind of monster.
Well, you weren't wearing a condom and you came.
Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't have let me get that far. Most girls back then didn't.
Didn't they?
No.
Yeah, well, I liked you, Carl.
Yeah, well,
you know, a lot.
I liked you too, Janie, but, I mean, the way you yelled at me, you scared the hell out of me.
What if I got pregnant?
Well, you didn't.
She's mad that he never apologized for it, but then he pulls out one of her old yearbooks and reveals that he actually wrote her an apology all those years ago.
Janie, it's really sunny. See?
Janie, I'm really sorry.
I never saw that.
I mean, yeah, I'm happy that he apologized, but is that supposed to make up for it that easily? It's still a lazy and not very self-reflective show of remorse. But then he gets the idea to ask her to come along with him. Sure, he's a wanted man on the run from the law, but now he'll have all that stolen money, so she won't have to be a prostitute anymore. But then Patrick shows up at her place, and he's not too keen about the idea of Janie coming along with them, and Carl might have to choose. Back up in Janie's apartment, they once again very nicely leave the door open for the cameraman, and Janie delivers a very stage-like monologue, eventually coming to the conclusion that nothing's holding her back and she does want to go with him. So she excitedly packs her bag for this new life on the run when she hears the car drive off without her. And what follows is, I'll be honest, some pretty decent acting from Anita Barone, as she genuinely looks heartbroken and let down. Damn, I feel so bad for her. But then, surprise, he didn't leave without her after all. He reveals that he told Patrick to keep the money because all he needs is Janie. And she decides she still wants to go with him because she may still be going on the run for the rest of her life with a wanted man, but now they don't have any money? Okay, what exactly do y'all plan on doing? They have no cash or vehicle. She doesn't even take the suitcase she was packing.
Don't you want to stop and pack something?
Nah. I got everything I need.
And the movie's over. Not kidding. It just stops right there. The IMDb synopsis for this film brags that it's like Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, but on location. And yeah, I guess being on location is more impressive than being at a single location, but are the locations all that great? did a great job ensuring that it doesn't just look like a generic rented office space. And why does this grown woman have stuffed animals all over her bed? The time constraint really makes it more stupid. I mean, Carl's not 1 hour out of jail and he robs a place. He hasn't even had time to visit his parole officer. Maybe if it messed with its time and events a little more, like later films on this list will do, it might have stood a chance, but making the whole film take place in real time was a big reason for its downfall.
I pulled that out when I saw you this afternoon.
That was 30 minutes ago, and since then 3 people have died. Alfred Hitchcock may have felt like Rope was just a stunt, but this movie fits that concern much more. It was something that didn't need to have the one-shot gimmick, but they wanted to prove they could do it, so they did it without asking if it was appropriate or if it strengthened the piece at all. It's said that this movie was director Josh Becker's work that he was the most proud of, and as sad as that sounds, from a behind-the-scenes standpoint, I can understand that a little. It was ambitious to take a single-shot film on location, and in case you're wondering why the movie is black and white, it's to cover up the lighting inconsistencies between the different shots. We get some obscured view cuts like in Rope, but we also get a lot of cuts hidden by whip pans, and some are pretty obvious with either their depth of range not staying consistent, or even blood splattering on the lens disappearing. Wait, is that even the same street they were just on? Running Time isn't the worst kind of film or anything, but it didn't warrant this presentation. They did manage to get some good shots in here and there, but the story is lackluster, and it's made even worse by the single-shot time constraint. But surely this would be the last time-based title for a single-shot film for a while, right?